Hey everybody, welcome to CAF Warbird Tube, the show where we talk about World War II, aviation, history, and so much more. Warbird Tube is produced by the Commemorative Air Force, the world's largest flying museum. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and honor through flight and living history experiences. The CAF began the Warbird movement more than 65 years ago, and thanks to the support of individuals like you, we continue to grow strong. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and now our host, Steve Buss. Thanks for watching and keep 'em flying.
Well, good evening. We'd like to welcome all of you watching tonight and on Warbird Tube. Glad to have you here, depending on where you're watching, if it's on a GoToMeeting or Facebook or YouTube, whatever platform you're on, we're glad that you are here. If you are on one of those social media platforms, I'd like you to hit the like or share button. And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and follow us. If you do subscribe on YouTube, you'll get notifications of when we go live and all the new episodes that are coming up on Warbird Tube. Now tonight, as we talk about our airplane, our featured airplane, you might have some questions for our presenters. Just type in the comment section on whatever platform you're on, and we'll try to answer them either during the presentation or before we sign off. Now, this is episode 78 of Warbird Tube, and tonight we take a look at the AT-19, which is at the Rainier Squadron, and joining us right now on the phone is John Smutny from the CAF Rainier Squadron. John, good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, we can see your smiling face here on the screen, but as we work a little technical issue, but let's talk a little bit about the AT-19 itself. This is a relatively unknown warbird, but a pretty cool airplane nonetheless. Tell us a little bit about the history of the AT-19.
Well, the AT-19 was developed from the last Stinson Reliant civilian airplane, the SR-10, on a military contract by the Army, U.S. Army, specifically for Lend-Lease to the British. All 500 of the AT-19 airframes were allocated to the British. Some went to Canada, some went to Europe, some went to India, some to Trinidad.
Get that down to them. So maybe it's just taking a second to get to you.
The AT-19 itself was designated a navigation trainer, hence the AT moniker. But they were used not only as a navigation trainers, but also as liaison communications aircraft. They were used.
Okay, so you're saying it's not streaming?
It's not streaming, and it says it's like if I look at Restream, it says it's finished.
Okay, stand by.
You're still there, John?
Yep, I'm still here.
Yep.
I was talking. Did you guys lose me?
No, we're good. We're good now. So you were telling about the roles of the AT-19 during the war.
Yes, and so then at the end of the war, being a Lend-Lease aircraft, they were all returned back to the U.S. And since it didn't have a type certificate, Vultee, who was a parent company of Stinson, purchased them all, made some changes to them as far as making more of a business and family-friendly aircraft, and then resold them as the V-77. And I should say all of them. There are a few AT-19s out there that are still in their original configuration. But then most of them spent their lives as civil aircraft in the U.S. and up into the bush country up north and down into Central America.
So quite a wide variety of uses, and still quite a few flying today, I understand.
Yeah, there are quite a number of them. Many of them painted up much like ours in the Royal Navy colors, but a lot of them in civilian liveries as well.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about this specific airplane, the one that you have at the Rainier Squadron. First of all, the squadron is relatively new. Tell us a little bit about how the squadron came to be founded out there. And you're in Washington State, just south of Seattle.
Yeah, in Washington State. Yeah, no. Basically, in late 2017, a number of us got together and said, yeah, we want to become a CAF squadron. And so we were chartered in 2018. In 2019, this airplane came up for reassignment, and we hopped on it and brought it up here to Washington. found a few little issues with it that needed some work, and we had to upgrade the brakes. And so now we have a flying airplane, and it's out in the world and doing rides and very popular at the few shows we've been to so far.
Let's talk a little bit about the condition of the airplane. You said you had to do some work on the brakes. What did you have done?
Yeah. All right, so Logan, our head of maintenance, has joined me here, and he'll talk a little bit about the maintenance side of it.
Hi there, Logan Shepard, maintenance
Hi,
officer, one of the pilots for the Reliant.
How are you this evening?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Just fine. We're just talking about the brakes. What needed to be done to the brake system on the airplane?
So the brake system itself, to put it in a nutshell, since we have a variety of people with experience on the show, is that this airplane was designed in 1943 or so, and came out in 44. And things back then, when you think about safety or how they work and everything, are like dinosaurs trying to operate computers nowadays. And so using an aircraft that is involved in, we have a rides program and everything like that, and with the high volume of traffic, especially at air shows, we felt that it was needed to upgrade these brakes to what would be called the red lines, but the Cleveland conversion. Well, when we jumped into that, there's only a couple of those that have been done on the Reliance, and it's actually meant to be done with the boot cowl off the aircraft and the aircraft kind of basically disassembled. Well, we managed to do it without having to disassemble the airplane. So as both John Smutny and myself and the rest of our maintenance team did, we lost probably, I want to say, about a year of our life going through converting this over to the modern brakes, which makes it safer, better, more reliable, and a lot more usable. But we're using drawings that from the factory to reference things. We're having to get under a control panel that's made for people half our size. And it was a lesson in manufacturing what we needed to, but also a lesson in gymnastics.
The joys of antique airplane restorations.
Oh,
We've actually
boy,
got we've got a picture up. Someone looks like they're working on the brakes there, so we can see. Yes, yeah. I mean, you really did it without having to take the whole thing apart.
Exactly. It was, and I just want to give a major shout out actually to John Smutny on that, not just because he's our CO, but he did a lot of the legwork on reaching out. And I'd worked with our FSDO a little bit to find out who might have it, the STC, to do this. But we had to get creative, and that's the great thing that's continued to happen with our squadron up here, is that even if we get thrown kind of a curveball, we don't really take it hard. We just put our heads down, we figure out how to do it, and we figure out how to move forward. And it's been really exciting.
You mentioned the FSDO. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this conversion has been done before, just not by very many people.
Exactly. Yes. And often with STCs, you may see one in a logbook once upon a time, but STCs can change hands, and you might not be able to find it by the airplane, or it might be, in some cases, like we have seen, not just with this airplane, but some of the other Warbirds that I work on. An STC owner may still be listed as one on the FAA website, and someone else might own it. So, or it could be a dead STC. That's another thing.
Yeah. Now the next picture we're looking at here, we've got the cowl off, and everything looks in pretty good shape. A few of the inspection covers are open. Anything mechanically with the engine or any other components on the airplane that you had to take care of?
Yeah, we went through and we refreshened everything on it. So I actually own a Warbird restoration company. And so I'm used to, with my clients, having the utmost highest level of expertise and quality and everything. And CAF, I hold on an even higher level. And then since we are a squadron that does the rides program, I hold our aircraft on the same as like an air carrier, because we've got to have 100%, we've got people's lives in there every time. And so we basically went through the entire aircraft front to back. And if something looked even remotely questionable, even though if it wasn't, we went through and we changed it. And this included hardware. We completely overhauled and rebuilt this entire tail wheel system on this aircraft. And especially firewall forward, there was a lot of things that were like old shielding or lack of shielding around things, especially like leads around magnetos, radio things like that caused interference. And we redid all that. A lot of fuel lines, stuff like that. And, with radial engines, if it's not leaking oil, then you want to be worried. But
exactly.
in our case, it was how can we slow down the gallon on the floor below it after the flight. So we went through and redid all the gaskets, rocker cover gaskets, all that. Went through, resealed the starter. Basically, if it had a gasket or seal, I had my team take it apart, take a look at it, and replace it.
So were there some still original parts from when it rolled off the assembly line in 43?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. One interesting thing actually was on the tail wheel. At the very top, there's a phenolic conical piece that kind of works as a shock absorber or last ditch effort if the tail wheel shock gets smacked too hard or anything like that. I believe that's the original one from the factory. And obviously, we can't just go and buy those parts or order those. And so we had to use drawings and material off that to make a new one. So I believe that was the original one from 1944.
And that was going to lead into my next question. Was there any other parts or pieces that you found that were not serviceable, but you had to get creative to find replacements?
Not really. We were happy with what CAF sent us. And we had some challenges, as every new squadron does, with that. But like I said, we keep a positive attitude on it. And the biggest challenge in that was kind of getting a lot of people spooled up. We have kind of a smaller maintenance team, but not everyone works on antiques or warbirds like myself or even John Smutny. And so that was kind of our biggest challenge, was getting everyone spooled up on that. And looking at old manuals and realizing that they're not, picture-wise, not super descriptive. Oh, hey. I'll keep going. Oh. Yeah. All right. I haven't heard anything back yet, so.
Right. Well, we've got a picture, and I think you're gonna have to hang up the phone.
Okay, can you hear us then?
Yep, loud and clear. Yeah, it looks like a much better connection.
Got us?
Yep. So that's John in front, and Logan standing up.
There we go.
There.
That was frustrating. 1 minute before going live, losing connection.
Oh well, it's always fun. We were just talking a little bit about the maintenance of the airplane and how it came to be. Do you know what the assignment history was before you had the assignment? Where was it before it came out to Washington?
Yeah, just before us, Coyote Squadron had it down there in Texas.
Okay.
And prior to them, out in South Carolina for a number, and that's where it pretty much entered the CAF about, if I remember correctly, about 30 odd years ago.
So this is a coast-to-coast airplane now.
Yep, it is.
So, and when you've got the airplane, what's it like to fly?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it has a lot of tail surface, but I kind of compare it to my Cub. It's just kind of like a big Cub. It's an honest airplane. You got to lead the rudder quite a bit because it's a big sail out there. But other than that, very honest.
And you've now taken it to several air shows and been doing some rides. And in our conversation the other day, you said it's really been the star of the show coming into some of these events.
Yeah, in both events that we went to, we were the only ones selling rides and warbirds there. And the second one, when they had an announcing system, and the announcer said, "Hey, off in the corner, there's a CAF selling rides in a World War II airplane." It's like everybody turned and started walking towards us, and we were pretty much sold out at that point.
He actually kind of underplays that. It was a quick snap and a rush.
Yeah.
If any of us at the table, we have that many people rushing at the table, it gets a little scary.
It's cool. Very popular. When you do a ride flight, what you usually take with you? You've got pilot, obviously, and then three passengers.
Three passengers. That's correct. Yep. So we'll have obviously one front seat and then the two back seats side by side.
Well, good. Well, now that we've got everything working, we're going to try something here. We've got you sent a short video of the airplane on landing roll. So let's see if everybody can see this. So there we go. How did that look like a pretty nice landing there?
Yeah, that was Stoney. He does a good job in the airplane.
How many pilots are qualified in the airplane right now?
Well, five of us. There are three pilots who are qualified as ride pilots, and then
Okay.
two of us who fly it. We've flown it to and from the different events. We definitely need more ride pilots out there. So if you're interested in flying a Warbird and giving rides, this is it. It's a great airplane to do that in. Sometimes we get jaded being in the Warbird world or in the airshow world, saying, "Oh yeah, that's another nice little four-seater," but everybody wants a Mustang. But the general public, what we have found is they are just enthralled with the World War II airplane and the sights and the sounds. When it fires up and the smoke is going everywhere, it gets inside the cockpit, the thing smells like smoke and fuel, and it's just a great experience. And what's really nice that what I've noticed is that parent child can sit next to each other and have this experience together, or husband wife can sit together and have the experience together. So it's been really neat seeing people sharing those experiences together in the airplane.
The other thing too about that, which is quite fascinating, is that, like Smutny had mentioned, a lot of people are like, well, it's not a Mustang, it's not some big giant fighter or whatnot. What's been really fascinating, I do a lot of our safety briefings to and from the aircraft. When I explain to people, I tell every single person, this is not a replica. This is a real World War II aircraft that served overseas in India in the Royal Navy, and every single time people's eyes become grapefruits. Like, this is not a fake thing. This isn't like a Navion painted like an L-17. This is the real deal. And it doesn't matter how old or young the person is, they look at the airplane and they're just like, it's like seeing Superman to them. It's really cool.
And tell us a little bit about the paint scheme of the airplane. What it's not an American paint scheme. It's a British paint scheme. But what's the history on that?
So this paint scheme is basically how it looked when it came out of the factory. As I mentioned, every single of the AT-19s, even though it was a U.S. Army contract, went to the British. There might have been variations between the yellow underwing and yellow belly and a light blue color. I see both of those in photographs since the 70s. Looking at black and white photos is kind of hard to tell. So some of it is a little bit of trying to figure it out. But the thing is, this one went to India. So in India, what they would have done is painted the red dot in the center white. So the markings for the British or Commonwealth aircraft in the Pacific were a blue circle with a white center. So there is a great photograph that the Imperial War Museum owns, and I think it's also on Getty Images that they want a lot of money for. But it shows a bunch of guys working on one of these Stinses, and you look at it, and you look under the wing, and the red dot's painted out. So there's a blue circle and a white center. And what's also I noticed is that the buzz numbers under the wings were painted over in yellow. You can still kind of see them, but they were painted over. So that's what it would have looked like, on the front lines there in India.
Well, that's good. That just led into one of our viewers was asking why the bottom of the wing is yellow and not gray or white, and that's just the variation on the paint schemes.
Right. Well, British trainers all were painted had a yellow undersides. So if you look at, you know, any of their Harvards or their Yales or their Tiger Moths, they all had yellow on the bottom and camouflage on the top once the war started rolling. And since this came off the factory designated a navigation trainer, that's why they were painted up as trainer in trainer colors.
All right, we're looking at a nice picture of the airplane in front of the Flying Heritage and Combat Armor Museum.
Yes.
Yeah, must have been an experience to fly in there with the airplane.
Yeah, we were based at Payne when the airplane first got here, so we did a bunch of flying up there around their airplanes as well.
Now, let folks know exactly where you are in case they'd like to see the airplane itself and check out the squadron.
Yeah, we are currently in Auburn, just south of Seattle. We have the airplane in our shop here at Normandy Aircraft. We are working on a facility north of Seattle. It's still in work, a lot of moving parts. Can't really go too much detail right now. I'm hoping to be able to have a big announcement next month, saying, hey, here's our new building, first of the year, come and see us. But yeah, we are south of Seattle. We hold our meetings currently here at the Auburn Airport. In fact, we have one coming up this Saturday, the 23rd, 10 a.m. If you're in the local area, come on down. You can see the airplane and our other new acquisition that we got today.
That's awesome. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but I have to let you know that one of the folks who's watching tonight is Bob Hafford. We saw some of his pictures. Bob wants to say hi.
Great pictures, yeah. Hi, Bob. Bob's an amazing photographer.
Yeah, it's some good shots there. You mentioned the new acquisition that you have.
Yes.
Why don't you tell folks about that?
Yeah. So that's the first picture I took of it when I went to go look at it. So a gentleman who owns a number of restaurants here in the area bought this fiberglass P-51 about 20 years ago. It was in a store here in Seattle called The Cockpit, basically aviation themed fashion. And the store went under, he bought it. It had been sitting pretty much in this warehouse full of other restaurant memorabilia for the last 20 years. He offered up for sale. We looked at it, and yeah, hey, it's great, but you know, we have to be focused on this new building. And so he came back and said, hey, you know, put my name on a plaque next to it, or my family name on a plaque next to it, and you guys can have it. So we picked it up today. It's a full scale P-51, full sized. It's very heavy, but it's on a pedestal. We have two trailers out back, one with the fuselage, one with the wing, and then my van and trailers full of all the other bits and pieces to it. So we're going to basically clean it up, excuse me, strip off the big beautiful doll paint, and then repaint it as Feisty Sue, which was Logan's great uncle's airplane in World War II. So we're going to clean it up, put better exhaust stacks on it, and then put it on display.
So that will be on display in either your current facility or your new facility?
In the new facility, yeah. Okay. That's where it will end up.
That's awesome. Talk a little bit about the Seattle area itself and its tie to not only World War II aviation, but obviously with Boeing out there, but also aviation, you know, just in general. It's a hotbed of activity.
Oh yeah, Seattle has, you know, a number of aviation companies here. You know, it's kind of hard to narrow it down. But of course, you know, the 800-pound gorilla is Boeing, who's been here since 1916. And anywhere you throw a dart in the Seattle area on the map, you're going to hit a Boeing facility. They're all over the place. There's, you know, historic-wise, you know, this is where they built the B-17. This is where the B-29 first flew. Then, you know, of course, you know, most of the production switched to Wichita at that point. You know, and then post-war, the jet age started here in the airliners in the 707. American jet age, I'll clarify that. So yeah, there is a huge, rich aviation history here in the Northwest. We have a number of other different collections of historic airplanes. Of course, the big one is the Museum of Flight, based at Boeing Field, just south of Seattle. Out in Port Townsend. There's the Port Townsend Aero Museum. They have a nice little collection and building on a whole new building. Also, who just finished a new building is up in Skagit, Historic Flight Museum, HFM. Going the opposite direction down Olympia, there's an Olympic Flight Museum. So there are a lot of really good collections here on the west side. Historic Flight Foundation, which was here on the west side, moved over to Spokane. So there's a good collection there. So there's a great Warbird community up here. I've worked with Historic Flight Foundation and also Historic Flight Foundation and Flying Heritage Collection and Combat Armor Museum on their events at Payne Field over the years, and have seen thousands of people show up just enthralled with watching the Warbirds fly by. So there is really a core of people here in the Northwest who love to watch the history of aviation and bring their kids to it and have the kids learn all about where we came from and what these airplanes did.
And there's also a lot of us, especially are also in Commemorative Air Force, that also own our own Warbirds that do a lot of community outreach. Almost everyone, actually all of the pilots for the Reliant all own other personal Warbirds as well.
Well, it's not really a Warbird.
Well, yeah, but close enough. But we have one gentleman has a Harvard, another has a really amazing bird dog that has rockets on it. That one's really rad. I have a Focke-Wulf 149D. And Mac has all of our airplanes.
Yeah, Mac flies them all.
He's flown over 200 different types of airplanes in his career. So, yeah. But as a whole in Seattle, like you were talking about the Boeing thing and everything, aviation is really at the core of this area. And when it comes especially to Warbirds, the people here genuinely get excited about it. And again, we go back to the Reliant, and people just lose themselves when they see that stuff. So it's great.
That's awesome. How many members do you have in the squadron right now?
Just shy of 20.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. And really, right now, we started with a core group. As the airplane was going through its growing pains of it, as we're fixing this and doing that, it went down a little bit. People was like, well, when the airplane's flying, we'll come back, kind of thing. Now that the airplane's flying, now that it's showing up at events, now that I can hopefully say, soon what our future holds north of Seattle,
which is awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think we'll see an explosion here in the Northwest membership.
That's great. And the reason I ask that question is because so many CAF members wonder about starting a unit or a squadron, and they think, oh, it's just, I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. And even when you get that group of people together, it can be difficult. So, and you've mentioned you've gone through little trials and tribulations, but you guys have really, in just a couple of years, you've got a great airplane. You're in the rides program. You're looking at a facility. So with some dedication and some hard work, you can turn things around pretty quickly.
And I would say right now, like I said, we've chartered in 2018. And I think it was last year or 2020, the CAF rolled out the new units initiative. And there is a new unit just on the other side of the mountains in Richland, Washington. And I think what the CAF has done with this new units initiative is take out a lot of the growing pains that we experienced. A lot of the bumps. And really, I envision what we did as kind of starting our own business. I envision what the new unit initiative is kind of like a franchise where you get, hey, here's your book, learn it, go from here. So I think the CAF learned a lot in the last few years and came up with this initiative. So yeah, if you're interested in starting a unit, no matter where it is in the world, because there are CAF units in Europe and other locations, I'd say pull the trigger and go for it.
And when you're talking about also building a squadron, the important thing, the two key things that I've really pushed and that we've really embraced is that just because someone's not a pilot doesn't mean that they can't be part of CAF. A lot of people assume that everyone who joins is a bunch of pilots and does all this stuff. It doesn't matter if you're not a mechanic, not a pilot. You could just be a big airplane enthusiast. We actually have people in our squadron who do a lot.
Yeah.
One person in particular, she does everything like digital and stickers, made big giant signs. She doesn't fly things, she doesn't fix things, but she loves airplanes. The other key thing, and Smutny says this all the time as well, is that be the person who's annoying and that all you talk about is CAF to your friends. Yeah. Everything. Tell them about all the good stuff that's going on, all the exciting things, because people want to be part of the exciting thing. And part of that also is looking at, okay, you have your core group of friends, everyone hangs out all the time, that's awesome, but there's people that, especially the younger generations, that don't know how or to get into this or the opportunities to get into it. Start reaching out to those people. You know, some people are reaching out to to people in their late high school age, getting involved in stuff. We have a really great program. It's a mentorship program around here. It does like mechanic stuff. Somebody's one of the mentors in that too. You know, we tell them about CAF, and then you get to the other stuff. And also, these people, they realize that Warbirds aren't just like they're special. Don't get me wrong. It's not like some super special secret handshake club. If you want to do it, you can do it. It's not that hard. So.
Yeah, and you know, you make a good point reaching out to the younger generations, because of course they're the ones we need to train and show how these airplanes operate and how to maintain them. But also, we're talking about the you know, late high school age kids. Those are good for being able to get into those hard to fit into spots in the airplane, like under the panel or out in the tail.
Exactly.
Actually, one of the things with our new facility north of here, I plan to really spearhead a cadet program.
Good.
When I was in Dallas in February for the national meeting, I was really blown away what the Tex Hill wing has done. I was really impressed there at the Harold E. Tippie Center, the section where they have the kids restoring, the teenagers restoring the J3 Cub. And so one of the things I want to do with this new facility up north is create a cadet program where we can teach kids how to use tools, how to do critical thinking with reading plans, whether they be modern plans or stuff that you have to dig out from World War II era. And start doing the whole process of becoming people that are not just, hey, look, that airplane's cool, or more like, hey, I did that to that airplane. I put that wing on, I put that fabric on, and give them some senses of accomplishment as well as teaching them how to marshal airplanes, and we'll take them flying. And so there's a lot of things that we can take this cadet program. And like I said, I was really impressed with what the Tex Hill wing did, and hope to model some of it after that, some of it after this teen flight program that I mentor, where we have kids building airplanes south of here. So right. I'm looking forward to what we can do in this new facility.
That's awesome. Let's see. Lou from Airbase Georgia is wondering what the requirements are to become a ride or a show pilot in the AT-19.
So tailwheel endorsed. 500 total?
Yep, and high performance.
High performance, 500 total hours, and a commercial ticket. You have to be a commercial pilot in order to be on the rides program.
Also, your tailwheel as well.
Yeah,
and they want tailwheel endorsed, and CAF currently wants 10 hours in the last 12 calendar months as well. Yeah. I can say this, and I'll say this on this. This airplane requires a bit more than 10 hours of tailwheel time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
she's honest, but you got to be on top.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a. You mentioned before it flies like a big Cub, and Cubs are pretty forgiving. This is a little heavier than a Cub is, so you've got a little more tendency to want to swap ends, especially on landing.
Sometimes, but keep it straight, especially after we rebuild the tailwheel. It flies really nice. It does exactly what you tell it to do.
In my opinion, if you have, I'd say 50 hours of tailwheel time, and you've done it kind of consistently, or been on that, you could fly the Reliant really easily. But if you haven't flown tailwheel in a long time, and a lot of your tailwheel hours like 20, 30 years ago, and maybe you've done 10 in the last year, I highly recommend getting, as I do anytime, get with an instructor and really just go over and over and over again in another tailwheel aircraft beforehand.
Is there a good airplane or aircraft that would be a good transition between something as light as a Cub and something heavier than the AT-19?
I actually have the answer on this one. So I learned to fly in a pre-war Aeronca Chief, and this is the first airplane that actually flies almost exactly the same. There's a lot of weight difference in size between them. The pre-war Chief can fit inside this, but side by side, you have yokes. Obviously, pre-war Chief doesn't have flaps. This has the pneumatic flaps, so you either have flaps or no flaps. But the takeoff roll, the way it handles, you got a lot of power in this, but it's not super fast to respond to stuff. You have to really think ahead. In my personal opinion, side by side, like in the Aeronca Chief, even the post-war Chief, still a good one too. But everyone flies in the Cub. You're used to tandem with the stick. The most comparable going across would be either this or a T-cart, something like that.
Cool. Chris Doss wants to know: do you have any T-shirts with the airplane on it? And if so, how does he get one?
I'm sorry, we have a Cessna enhancing the audio here. So one more time on that question.
Chris is wondering if you have T-shirts that feature the AT-19, and if so, how does he get one?
No T-shirts yet. We have the hats that we created,
Okay.
or I'm sorry, that Logan created, that are the colors, the gray, the green, and the yellow underneath. We've talked about T-shirts, but this time no shirts yet.
And if someone's interested in getting a hat, do you have those for sale?
We'd be more than happy, and I'd say watch our website in the near future. We'll put a link up there.
Oh, that is nice. Okay.
And then the whole aircraft, the whole thing itself is actually inspired. You see the yellow underbelly of the hat, the gray and the green and the roundel. The hat itself is inspired not just by the Reliant, but by all the other Royal aircraft that had the same thing. So whether you're a fan of this aircraft or the other ones, it's a really good generic British hat.
There you go. What are some of the other things that you have coming up with the chapter? I know you've got a showing the shot of the simulator.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a simulator. Basically, it was used as an instrument approach simulator. You can't see it on this view, but on the other side of the back end, it actually is cut out. There's a little desk and drawers and whatever, and that's where the instructor would sit, and he had a portal to look forward at the student, and it was kind of modeled after the B-25. You kind of get a B-25 vibe off of it. And then the instructor could change the winds. This thing would be sitting on a whole mechanical computer. But a friend of mine had this, and he retired and was moving east, and so I bought it off him, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do much with it, so I decided to donate it to the squadron. And my initial thought was we'd clean it up, put CAF wings on it, put it on a trailer, take it to shows where we can't take the Reliant. So in the beginning of every year in February, there's a conference south of here. That's at the fairgrounds. There's no airplanes there. Well, helicopters will come in. But it's something we can put there and kind of put a little cockpit in there and have people play around with it. Now, as part of this looming cadet program, it's going to be their project. They're going to be able to do whatever they want with it, whether they want to bring it back to original, whether they want to fill it full of modern electronics, or if they just want to put a panel in there with some switches. But this will give them a chance to work on an aircraft without the risk of the airplane not flying.
Right.
So, but basically, whatever direction they want to take it is what we'll do it. You can see all the windows are frosted. That's as designed. It's like wearing foggles. But we can always put clear plexi in there if they so desire, and we can put a shark's tooth on it if they so desire. But that's going to be kind of something they're going to take ownership from. And that's actually something I learned from the Texil Squadron. It's important to give them something to take ownership of.
Yes, just like any volunteer organization, you can have all the volunteers in the world show up for an event, but if they don't have a job, they drift away pretty quickly. But once you give them a job and a mission, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And one other project that you've got here, where is it? There it is.
Oh, yeah, right there, Aeronca L3 Defender. So that is a project. This is obviously a stock World War II vintage photograph. We have an L3. It hasn't officially been donated to the squadron yet. We're waiting for get it building before we do the donation, so we don't have to incur costs on it when we can't work on it. But its history was that it served in South Dakota.
Yep.
South Dakota during the war at the radio school in Sioux Falls. Sioux
Yep.
Falls, South Dakota was the Army radio school. If you were a radio operator in the Army Air Corps, you went through that school. So every single radio operator started off their first hour in the air in either an L3 or an L5. And so our L3 was based there. I've acquired much of the equipment. There's still a couple radios I'm trying to find. The wings are pretty much ready for cover. The fuselage needs a little bit of work, and then it'll be ready for cover and engine overhaul. But that'll be a project that we'll be working on to get flying. And then we have another airplane. So one of the big hurdles in the Warbird world is this whole tailwheel endorsement and tailwheel currency. So the idea is there are a number of flight schools here in the area that have a Cub or a Champ where they can get their endorsement, or a pilot can get your endorsement. Then when we have this airplane flying, this is a nice, simple airplane that they can just burn the hours in. It's slow, so it's a great airplane to get hours in. And that way they can start building the hours they need to then start transitioning to the Reliant.
And it's still a Warbird.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Does the L3 that you have, does that have a military history to it?
Yeah, that's the way it was in South Dakota at the radio school. So it basically went from Middleton, Ohio, via Nashville to Sioux Falls, and spent a year and a half there, and then went to Cincinnati and was mustered out of the Army, and then bounced around the U.S. But yeah, it was a trainer for radio operators.
Awesome. So you've got a number of great things going there at the Rainier Squadron. Again, if someone wants to get more information, how can they do that?
CAFrainier.org is our website.
Let me see if I can find it.
Also going to right there. That's where we put as much information as we can. And you can see on the upper right there, we have links to our Facebook and Instagram pages, and we try to keep those things going fairly often, posting on Facebook and Instagram, so people get to see us, see what we're doing, get excited about what we're doing. There's one of Bob's pictures.
Yep, saw that. And to any of the CAF members who might be watching that may be going to Oshkosh this year, the Air Venture, I will be there. And if you have any questions about the squadron, or you want one of our cards or anything like that, I will be in the Warbird area with the Focke-Wulf. So happy to talk to you, meet you, and direct you whatever way. And you don't even need to be in our area. I will show you the ways of how to get involved with CAF.
Well, I'm wondering, Lou from Airbase Georgia, if he was asking about becoming a pilot, he might show up on your doorstep and transition in from Georgia to Washington.
Yeah, next month the Arizona B-17 and B-25 are coming through Washington, and we're really excited about that. Primarily to learn how these kind of ride stops happen. How they have everything set up, and of course, over the years I've seen these visits, but I've not paid attention really to how they do it. So we're real excited to learn off of them, because next year hopefully Richland will have their PT-19 or 26, and then maybe we'll work together with them and doing like a mini tour throughout Washington and Oregon.
That's great.
And actually, it's taking a quick step back. We were talking about members out of the state. We actually, one of our pilots is a Reliant pilot, who's actually our Czech pilot, lives in New Mexico.
Yep. It actually happens more than you would think, that some of the pilots, if they're really wanting to fly a particular airplane, will find a way to get wherever they need to be. Speaking of getting where you need to be, Alan is watching tonight. He will be in Seattle next Saturday. And he'd like to know if you can give him some information on the museum that you mentioned. Should he just contact you through the website? Is that the best way to do that?
Yeah, my email address is co@cafrainier.org. But But like I said, we'll at 10 o'clock here in Auburn at the airport office, we'll have our squadron meeting. More than welcome to stop by and for, during, or after, and be more than happy to tell them about the area.
Great. Well, gentlemen, any final thoughts you have tonight before we kind of wrap things up?
No, but thank you very much again, giving us the
Yeah.
opportunity to talk about Rainier Squadron, the AT-19, which is a great airplane, great airplane to have on the rides program. You know, comparatively with a lot of the other ones, it's quote unquote affordable for a lot of the folks to take rides. Give them their first Warbird experience, and let families actually do it together as well. So it's a great airplane for that. It's a lot of fun to fly, a lot of good ramp presence. So we're really happy to have it and be able to campaign and do the educate, honor, inspire theme of CAF around the Northwest.
And the airplane itself is really undersold before, like what we had. You look at the actual history of the Reliant, and there was things like, you know, it was used on covert operations and, you know, sub hunting and all sorts of things. It's just as important as a Mustang. Just as important.
That's right.
But we do want a Mustang.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, gentlemen,
either way, we're good.
there you go. Gentlemen, we appreciate you taking time to be with us tonight. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is not only because of the beautiful airplane, but also you're sort of a success story within the CAF as being a newer unit, but up and running and in the rides program. We've got a great airplane and taking it around and really spreading the word and continuing the mission of the CAF. So congratulations for that, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Again, don't forget to click that like, subscribe, or follow button so we can let you know about future shows. Now, if you have any ideas for a future topic, an airplane you'd like to know more about, or someone you'd like to find out more about, just drop an email to Leah Block at media@cafhq.org. Thanks again, John and Logan, for joining us tonight from the Rainier Squadron. Until next time, from the Commemorative Air Force, I'm Steve Buss. Have a good night.